All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the call. I think we got a good one for you guys today. We have Chris T coming on to share some of his little tips and tricks about telesales. And before we do that, let me show you guys some pretty cool stuff here. All right, guys. So, yep, today we're gonna talk to Chris. I've got a few things I'm gonna ask him to see if we can milk him for some of his information that we can all use, right? To basically to better our business, to make more sales, to hit some big numbers. So I want to bring up a few numbers that Chris recently did. So last week on our platform, and we're talking, this is a budget around $1,200. Okay, approximately. We'll see, because he's been up and down, and so it's around $1,200 for a weekly budget. He got 17 applications, a total of $15,733 in annualized premium. Guys, there's agents that have never hit this in a month, and Chris is hitting this. This is the second time he's hit 15,000. He's gotten right up to 15,000 in the past too. That's pretty huge. You now hold our weekly record. Once again, you broke your own record. Congratulations, pretty awesome. As of today, we still got a couple days left. He is just under 50,000 of annualized premium. That's his August. That's what it's looking like. So the potential is there to do 55, I would have to say. I don't see why not. It's doable. If anybody can do it, Chris is going to do it. Shoot, if he has a few, if you think about it, if he has a few really good days, there's 3 days left, he could even hit 60,000. I mean, that's within reach. Chris has been with us for 7 weeks. This is coming up. This is his 8th week coming up. So in 7 weeks, he's written $93,432 in AP. To me, this is pretty amazing. I know we texted Friday. I asked him about where his AP was. He replied, with the 93,000. Then he wrote, dude, I've had years where I haven't written that. And so just FYI, guys, Chris T, he's been selling final expense for right around 15 years, face-to-face. So the whole telesales is real new. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what he's doing. I want to start with this. Before I ask you to unmute, I just kind of want to show off your weekly schedule. This was Chris's schedule from last week. As you guys know, Monday is always a slower day. What did he have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 appointments on Monday. There are agencies that do what we do and agents that are doing what we do that can't get 14 appointments in a week, let alone on the slowest day, on the slow day. So at the end of the week, you'll notice Thursday, a lot of appointments, got to be around, I don't know, I think I counted them. I know there's over 40. So at the end of the week, we're looking at right around 140, 160 appointments per week. This is what Chris has been doing week in, week out. Let's go ahead and get things rolling. Chris, can you go ahead and unmute yourself, please?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Beautiful, loud and clear. Sounds real good.
Okay.
Chris, yeah, let me ask you this. You reached out to me a few months ago. You found me, I guess, through the YouTube channel probably. And you were like, you'd already been selling face-to-face for all these years. What was going on? Why were you so interested in trying our telesales system?
So I had a change with the last company I was working for. They actually sold out, and a lot of things changed, and I just wasn't going to be with them anymore. It's probably my favorite face-to-face company I've ever worked for, and I've strictly done final expense for the last 15 years. So I had a lot of face-to-face leads stacked up, and I had looked in the past about the telesales thing. I'd actually watched Doug's videos probably a year ago, and I'd always considered it, but just never would step off that ledge to try it. And I said, well, if I'm ever going to try it, I bet I had 200 leads, paper leads, that the guy basically that had sold out and just shut the agency down. He made me a deal for a bunch of leads. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try to sell these leads over the phone. and just do my own thing and just see what kind of success I have. And I did pretty good on them. And some of these leads were 6 months old. So I said, man, if I can do these off 6 month old leads, what can I do with fresh leads? So then I went to really digging in, researching. I reached out to 3 or 4 different agencies that does basically what Doug does. But I'm a big customer service guy, and of all the people I talked to, I felt like he was the most engaged and the one I could trust the most to help me, just based on contact and communication. So I rolled with Doug and haven't looked back since then.
Awesome. And I appreciate that, man, big time. So real quick, let's do a little recap. So before you came over with us, let's say earlier this year, what was your normal production per week? What were you averaging each week, and maybe as far as AP and also per month?
So my problem is in the paper lead system, my whole career, most agencies I worked for, they were not going to give you more than 25, 30 leads a week. I mean, 30 was a lot. It just happened to have extras. You know, I've always heard, no matter who I work for, 25 is all an agent can work. If you're going to work them right, it's all you can work. And out of those 25, I was writing on average about 5 apps a week. And, you know, I was maximizing those 25. I was always one of the top writers for whatever agency I worked for based on the number of leads I got. So I would write 250 a monthly premium on average on a week off 25 leads. And one thing I've been over my career is a model of consistency. I mean, it doesn't take me long to figure out, based on that lead system I'm working, what I'm going to average. And it's sales. Everybody knows it varies week to week, but it doesn't take me long to realize pretty much where I'm going to be at. So that's pretty much where I have been at, I would say, over the last 15 years. And I've always wanted to work more leads. And there's probably some things I could have done myself on the paper lead industry and just ordered extra leads outside of my agency. But I just never done that. You know, I was making a decent living. I didn't have, you know, any extra expenses, but I wasn't maximizing what I was capable of doing. Gotcha.
Very cool, man. Yeah. So basically what you would do per month is you're doing more than that. You're averaging more than that per week nowadays.
Correct.
With telesales. Okay.
And it's just a numbers game. I'm working 5 times as many as leads.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not doing anything differently. I'm just working more leads.
All right. And what days I know you work Monday through Friday, I should say, what hours are you opening on your calendar? You know, what kind of.
So this is the way I look at it. You know, when I did the paper system, everybody knows you got a lot of time on the road. You know, you may not get home, depending on how far you're working from home. You may not get home till 6, 7, 8. Sometimes, you know, I would get home at midnight, depending on how far, because I would work, you know, 4 or 5 hours from the house. So the way I look at it, if it's a day I'm working, and I know we all have different things going on in our lives. Some people have to shut down at a certain time for certain reasons, but if I'm working that day, I'm the type of person, if I'm making money that day, I just assume make as much as I can. So a lot of times I don't get done. I'm gonna give an example. Me and Brandon was having a conversation. I can't remember if that was Thursday or Friday. And we talked for probably an hour and a half. I don't think we got off the phone till almost 9 o'clock. When I got off the phone with him, while we were on the phone, someone texted in the system. I noticed a text. It was someone, the system was trying to set an appointment for them. But she said, back in the text, it said that I can't, my schedule's 10 to 6. That's what I have my appointment time set on. She said, I can't do anything before 6. So the system wasn't going to set an appointment for her. Well, as soon as me and Brandon hung up the phone, I said, well, I'm going to see how serious this lady is. So I texted her right back. I said, look, you can't get off to 6. No problem. I can talk to you right now. She said, okay, call me. was an absolute lay down, $142 premium. I mean, lay down. And so, you got to use the system. I mean, you got to take advantage of little things like that. Don't just because they didn't set an appointment, you get somebody that's wanting to talk to someone basically right at the end, or at least put a feeler out there and see, call their bluff. And she said, call me. And like I said, it was one of the easiest sales I've ever made. But I routinely, weekly, work till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. If you're getting the appointments and you're going through a lot of presentations, you're going to get behind. So even if your cutoff time is 4, at best, you're going to get done at 5, an hour behind. I mean, that's how it is for me. So I put a lot of time in. If I'm going to work that day, I'm going to put a lot of time in. I'm not going to block off part of the day. If I need to take off a day, I'll just take off the full day. But if I'm working that day, I'm not blocking anything off.
Gotcha. Excellent. Yeah, that's true. Because even if your calendar, if you're slamming and you're doing it the way we want to do it, and you've got all these appointments every day, even your calendar, if it cuts off at 6 o'clock, you may get on your 6 o'clock, one of your 6 o'clock appointments, finish up at 6:30 or so, and then realize you still got 4 people you still need to catch up with. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Chris, let me ask you this. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about a little bit about building rapport. I guess what I'd like to know, we don't probably all like to hear, is do you suggest, or maybe what do you suggest is like the best way to build rapport? Do you have any tips on maybe what to talk about or topics of conversation or anything like that?
Yeah. Let me say this to start with. And like I said, I have strictly done final expense for 15 years. And so I do have some experience from that standpoint, but I've worked with a lot of agents in the final expense business that strictly done final expense. And from what I've seen over the years, you basically have 2 types of agents. And this is my opinion. Everybody doesn't have to agree with it, but I know what's worked for me and what continues to work. But from what I've seen, you have 2 types of agents. You have the kind of guy that comes across really likable, really trustworthy. And then you have the professional that comes across super professional. He may be more monotone, more dry speaking, maybe not as likable, but he comes across very professional. Those are you, in my opinion, you have to be one of those dudes or ladies, I'm sorry, who are, if you have to be either professional or come across super likable and trustworthy. The golden goose is if you can be both, but you have to be one of those 2, in my opinion, to be successful in this business. So I think I come across really likable and a little bit professional, but probably more likable than that side. So that is one thing you have to get through your head. I think to start with, you have to fall in one of those categories and know who you are. You can't try to be someone you're not. You have to be in one of those categories. So figure out who you are to start with as an agent. And then your whole presentation needs to be built around whichever type person you are. Because if you're trying to be someone you're not, in my opinion, it's just not going to work. And I think that's the first start. Secondly, I think it's very important when you get on the phone with these people from the get-go, you have to start building rapport. So there's certain things I like to do, and Doug, I don't know how you want me to go into this.
Go ahead, keep going, man. I love this.
Okay. So I like to bring up something familiar. I know that's tips that a lot of us probably already do, but I know me and Doug had spoke about objections, and I know that's a lot of people's concern, how to deal with objections. But I think what a lot of agents miss out on, it's what they did before they get to the objection. So the goal would be to not have any objections, right? I mean, that would be what we all want. But if you do everything right, and I know Doug has preached this a lot, if you do everything right, you're still going to battle objections. It's part of the business. So for me, it's very important to make sure that I did everything I was supposed to do before I got an objection, because then you can overcome the objections. If you're dealing with a problem where you're never overcoming objections and you're really struggling every time you get an objection, you're not doing something right before you get to that objection. And to me, that is crucial. So I think it's very important for them to trust you and believe in you before you get to that objection. If not, you're not going to overcome the objection. I don't care if you say everything as far as the looping, you can say everything you want. If they don't trust you or believe in you as a professional, you're not going to overcome that objection. And so that's something I make sure I have done before I ever get to the point to where I give them a price. Because I'm pretty sure we all probably say similar to the same thing. Once we get an objection, we probably, somebody says, I need to talk to my kid, which I know we all get that a lot, or I can't afford it. We all get the same objections. Now, I'm not getting anything different than anybody else is getting. I think one thing I may do different is than possibly some of you is I really enforce how I handled that person before I got up to that objection. I make sure that I feel confident that they really like me and trust me before I get to that point. And either they trust me because I come across really likable, or they trust me because I've came off really professional and I know what I'm talking about. So if you've built that up, it's going to be a lot easier to overcome that objection. If you haven't, you're not going to overcome it. I don't care what presentation you're going by, what you're saying, it's just not going to happen.
Nice. That's a lot of information, man. So basically let me rehash basically on what you just said. So the bottom line is, by the time you get to giving the price, in order to have very few objections, you want to make sure they're really comfortable with you. They're either liking you or comfortable with your professionalism. I guess that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I would say that, the bulk of the people we're talking to, I know everybody has noticed this by this time, whether you're doing paper leads or you're doing, face-to-face or telesales, the bulk of your leads is typically ladies and guys. No, this is strictly to you. Ladies, I know it may be older ladies. It's not a girl in her 20s that you're courting anymore, but a lady still likes to be talked to like a lady in a certain way. And if you know how to talk to a lady, you're going to be successful. If you struggle on that end, you probably want to go the professional route. Because they still want to be talked to a certain way. And I would say the bulk of our clients, that's who they are. So if you can be successful talking to a lady, you're going to do pretty good.
I like that. So Chris, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you, do you use a script? Do you follow a presentation?
Not at all. I mean, when I first started in the business, I was trained by a guy that he was the professional type and he was good. But I learned quickly that, he was by the book presentation, and I just knew, that's really not who I am. And after I trained with him for about a year, and I did do that route for about a year, and we actually ended up working together a lot, and he normally outsold me during that first year. But by year 2, I was outselling him, and we worked pretty much for the same agencies all through our career, and I outsold him pretty much every year, and I never opened my book in face-to-face. When I walked in the door, the only thing I opened my book for was to get an application out and fill it out. That's just my style. And that's just the way I handle things. But like I said, everybody has their own personality, the way they are. So one thing that I think is extremely important and I don't care how they do it, everybody's got to figure out their own way. But you have to make these people believe that you can help them in a way that nobody else can, that you are more qualified. And by saying that, I don't mean sit there and brag on yourself and say, I'm this, this, and this. But you have to say it in a way where you build rapport and you're verifying yourself. So I use words like state a lot. I use Social Security a lot. And I don't tell them, hey, I work for the state, or this is coming straight from the state. But I do use those words in a way to where in their mind, they're linking me to the state. They're linking me possibly to Social Security, because that helps solidify you. And I think that is crucial to do that in a way that you're building trust, and you're building yourself up to where, this person can give me a deal that nobody else can. This person is going to be able to help me get coverage like no one else can. Once you have them thinking that, then it makes the sale that much easier, and it makes it to where you have less objections. If you're not building that up before you get to the price to where they believe in you, then you're going to struggle more, and you're going to run into more objections. I run into objections just like everybody else, but I try to get to a point where by the time I get to that price, where I'm less likely to run into an objection. Whereas if I do, I pretty much know that person. You can loop all you want. They're not real serious, and I do loop, but I'm not going to loop a bunch of times, because I know once I've got to that point, they should be ready, or I'm not getting to that price yet.
Nice. All right. Let's throw out an objection. So you go to close your sale, you give them the price, and your client says, well, I need to think about this first.
Okay. So, Mr. Massi, I understand you're on Social Security, you're on fixed income. The good thing about these plans is we don't collect anything up front anyhow, because first and foremost, I want to make sure I get you approved. Because if I can't get you approved, it doesn't do you any good anyhow. So what I can do for you, since American Amicable actually works with Social Security, I will set this up for you it won't start until the 3rd of next month. That way you have plenty of time. We got time to get you approved. Also, you got time to think about it. If for some reason you decided, you know what, I don't need a policy to cover my family, I'm not worried about it, well, just call me. We can always take care of it for you, get rid of it. No big deal. But in the meantime, at least we know we'll have you approved, and we can get you taken care of, and you'll have a policy set up, and it won't start until you have your money coming in. Because a lot of these people, they're thinking, when they call you, some of them already know they don't have the money right then. So they're already thinking, I'm not buying anything today. So I try to make sure I overcome that for them and make them feel comfortable that, you know what, we're not collecting anything today anyhow.
That's important. I love it. You go right there. You let them know, hey, we can't, we're not going to collect your money today. I love that. So, all right, let me ask you, kind of pick your head a little bit with this and see how you deal with this. When you're texting, I believe we text automatically. Am I right? Through the 800 number. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
So when you're calling your appointments, are you calling them from that 800 number? Are you using a local number? What if they don't answer when you call? Do you switch phone numbers? What are you doing to get them to pick up the phone?
Okay. I actually mix it up sometimes, and I can't tell you why, but sometimes I call from the 800 number. Sometimes I call from a local number. I honestly see about the same results, I would say, either way. The difference is it's important to call back to back. I know you preach on triple dialing. A lot of times I always at least double dial. For time consuming with as many appointments as I normally have, a lot of times I don't triple dial, but I can't tell you how many times. And let me back up and say this. I never done this before I came over to Telesales. Even paper leads, when I would call people, I would call them one time, say at 9 a.m. Then I would call them again around 12. And then I would call them again around 4 or 5 or whatever. So I would call them 3 times a day, but I never would call them like hang up, boom, call them right back. And from day one of trying double dialing, triple dialing, I have seen how it works. So I always call back. I double dial 100% every single call. I don't care if I got 45 appointments, I'm double dialing. And it works. So whether it's the 800 number or a local number, it works either way. I will say this. When I started out, I strictly used the local numbers, and I noticed I would get a lot of text messages back. A lot of people aren't answering these local numbers. I think you have two different styles of people. I think your older people are more likely to answer that local number. I think your younger people are more likely to save that 800 number because it says in the text to save it, and you're more likely to get them on the 1-800 number. I think that's kind of what I'm seeing, because I do get a lot of text back when that automatic text tells them, hey, is everything okay? I think I get a lot of text back, people saying, yeah, I didn't get a call from the number you told me to save. So I do try to use that. I am using the 800 number more and more for the initial call.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. Do you think we can do a little role play so we can hear a little bit of how you do your presentation, at least the first part of it?
Sure.
All right. And just let me be your client here in Florida.
Okay.
I guess we start with ring ring and hello, this is Doug.
Hey, Mr. Doug, this is Chris Thompson. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good, Chris. How about yourself?
Oh, I can't complain. I was supposed to give you a call this morning about the state approved life and burial coverages.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Let me pull your file up here. How's the weather been down there? I know we've been getting a lot of rain over here.
Yeah, well, it's Florida. It rains pretty much every day for at least a few minutes.
Yeah, you got that right. I've been working in Florida for over 15 years, so that's why they sent you back over to me.
Okay. Excellent.
What part of Florida are you in?
We're over here in Vero Beach, outside of Orlando.
Okay. It's been a little while since I've been over that way. I've been. I'm sorry. I was fixing to change gears. I didn't. So you want to go through the full presentation? I thought you just wanted to see how it started.
I kind of do. Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to hear, part of your presentation, at least up to where, you get to the pricing.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, man. Role play away.
Okay. So, Mr. Doug, you've been looking, I assume you were looking at coverage mostly just for yourself.
That's correct. It's just me.
Okay. Well, let me verify a little bit of your information here that you sent in to me. Let's see here. Your date of birth is XYZ.
That's right.
And let's go over your prescriptions you're taking, because that will help me be a lot more accurate for you.
Okay.
And let's pretend like you just,
sure,
you just gave me the list of medications. And let me say this, when they're going over the prescriptions, let people talk, because the more they talk, the more comfortable they get with you. And when they are talking, I know it can be aggravating sometimes because you have a lot of appointments, and I mean, I'm there too, but the more they talk, use their name a lot, but let them talk. Even if you know the prescription they're fixing to say, let them spell it out. They'll start laughing about stuff because they can't pronounce it. You laugh with them. So if you're cutting people off or you're just trying to get through it, you're missing opportunities to make them more comfortable with you. Let them talk. Now, once you give the price and you get into that point and they want to keep going and going and going and keep putting you off, that's a different type of talking there. They're trying to take over the conversation. But before you got to that point, let these people talk.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. So, yeah.
Okay. So we'll get back. You just gave me all the prescriptions.
Okay.
And we shot the bull a little bit. I may have heard your dog barked in the background, something of that nature. Just shooting the bull, verify the prescriptions, verify the medications. So, Mr. Massi, the State Department of Insurance, the funeral homes, they always want you to have whole life coverage for burial. And keep in mind there again, I brought up the State Department of Insurance. I'm trying to relay what they want and what I'm helping you with. So the reason they want you to have the whole life coverage is because that's the only type of coverage that never goes up and it never runs out on you. Once you have it, it's locked in for life. That's why the state recommends you have whole life. So, Mr. Massi, the biggest advantage I have, since I handle all the state approved coverages, is I can pull from every company in the state to figure out who can help you the most and give you the best deal for coverage. Because as you know, some companies won't even write a diabetic. And I know you're taking metformin, you're taking insulin shots.
Yeah.
And I know if you've ever tried before, you've probably run into problems with different companies not wanting to write you, having you.
Yeah, I got declined years ago. I tried to do this and they wouldn't even take me.
Right. So again, that's the biggest advantage I have. So as me and you have been talking, I've been putting everything into the system. And what it does, it starts to let me know which companies in the state can help you the most and which ones can't. So let me see what we have here. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Massi, but your biggest concern was making sure you had enough for burial so it doesn't fall back on the family, right?
That's I don't need a lot, just enough to cover the funeral.
Okay. So and let's pause it right there for a second. So a lot of times when I say that, someone will bring up a story, whereas a mom may be talking about they buried, her sister, maybe one of her kids. She'll bring up a story. Let her tell that story. And then if you have a story that's similar, like I wrote a lady the other day that her brother had passed away of a heart attack. Well, my brother passed away of a heart attack. So I connected with her on that. I let her tell her story. I backed her story up with my story, and bringing up the fact that he was 43 years old, and you just never know when something can happen. Just putting that on her mind, because, it's just crucial to do that. So if they want to tell me a story at that point, I'm fixing to let them tell me a story, because it's normally going to be burial related. Okay.
Gotcha.
So, and let me see where we were at. I paused for a second. Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you wanted to make sure you had enough burial so it doesn't fall back on the family.
Correct. I don't want my daughter to get stuck. She's the one
Okay.
that helps me with everything.
I understand that. I have 3 kids, and I feel exactly the same way about my kids. I don't want them to have to pay for my burial. So in Florida, on average, Mr. Massi, it takes about $10,000 for burial. But it's one thing, me and the longer we live, these funeral homes, they're not getting cheaper, they're getting higher. So let me pause it there again. So one thing I do, I'm not a 3 price guy, I'm a 1 price guy. So based on their age, if they're 50, I'm not going to show them a 10,000, they're in good health, and their premium's only going to be $22 a month or 32, whatever it is. I'll bring in about how expensive funeral homes are getting. So if I want to stay in that $60 to $70, $80 range, I'm going to show them a 20,000, a 25, whatever they're going to fall in. And I'm going to justify them having that much coverage based on they're going to live longer. So does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does.
Okay. So the longer we live, it's not getting higher, it's getting cheaper. So I have 2 or 3 really good options for you, Mr. Massi.
Okay.
One of them being American Amicable. And let me tell you a little bit about American Amicable. Also, AIG and Aetna shows a pretty good deal for you. I know you're familiar with them. And the reason I will bring up AIG and Aetna, because pretty much everybody has heard of them, but I'll bring it up with American Amicable. And then I'll say, you know what? But the reason I would want to put you with American Amicable, number one, they've been around since 1910. They're A-rated. Very, very good insurance company. But they are not as hard on diabetics as what a lot of companies are. So they can still help you get immediate day one coverage. And that is very important. We just talked about your brother passing away at an early age. Well,
Yeah.
we don't ever know. So we want to have something that goes in effect immediately if there's any way possible. So if I can get you approved with American Amicable for $25,000, we're looking at $72.39, and that's locked in, never goes up, and would pay out the full amount from day one.
Okay. Well, can you do a little? How much? Maybe is 15,000. I don't know if I can budget that right now.
Okay, so 15,000, we would be looking at $59.88. Now, keep in mind that that is still enough coverage for burial. We could always add on later on. But when it comes to insurance, Mr. Massi, it's a lot easier to go down because once you were approved for that much, you're already approved. So you're locked in. So if you had to come down, that's just a matter of picking up the phone and calling the company. I would rather you have enough and never have to add on again than start out with the bare minimum and then try to add on later on. Because guess what? In 2 years, you're going to be 2 years older. You may be taking different medications. And it may be, you already know you're a diabetic, you've been turned down in the past. So it may be hard to get more coverage later on. So let me just say this. If you think you might could handle the 25, I would start there because you could always come down if you need to.
Okay, now that's fine. Let's do the 25 then. Go ahead with that.
Okay, boom.
All right.
Just got my first sale of the morning. It's not even 10 o'clock yet.
Nice. There we go. Excellent. Excellent. So that's good stuff, Chris. What do you do like a little cool down? Once you've gone through the application process, how do you kind of end your call?
I just, I'll shoot the bull with them a little bit and, let them know they're going to be getting their policy in mail in a couple of weeks. If there's anything I can do, a lot of times I'll tell them, hey, as soon as I get the approval on you, I know American Amicable will give it over the phone most of the time, but depending on who I wrote it with, I'll let them know as soon as I get the approval, I'll shoot them a text, let them know, or either I'll call them. And if they have any questions at all between now and then, call me. I'll help you any way I can.
Gotcha. Cool. Excellent. Good stuff, man. You know what? I don't really have any other questions, but I'd love to open it up to the gallery. If anybody, you want to ask Chris something, now would be the time to do it. Steve, I see you're on.
Good morning. Thanks for everything you guys are doing this morning. My question is pretty simple. And Doug, you've been helping me with this a lot, especially over the last week. But when it comes down to that looping, I guess when you get down to about, maybe 3 or 4 loops and, you just can't get them to move forward. You have any suggestions there just to help me with there?
Okay. Steve, I assume you were talking to me, right?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Okay. I would say this, Steve. First thing I would look at, obviously we don't get them all. I don't get them all. No, nobody does. So I would say if you're running into that a lot, I'm gonna go back to what I had kind of spoke on earlier. I would go back and think about what you're doing before you ever get to the price to have to face the looping. I think that maybe you need to build a little more rapport and trust if you're running into this often. If I have to get to the point where I'm looping with this one person 3 or 4 times, I'm moving on to the next one because I know I already did my job up to the point before I got that first loop. That after I give them one or two loops, it's time for me to go. In fact, I'll get to the point where I'll tell them, let's say they're saying, "Oh, well, I don't think I can afford it." And of course, you've price dropped, or if they say, think I gotta talk to my daughter, and the way I respond to that one is about, hey, you know what? You've got plenty of time to talk to her. We're not setting this up to start to the 3rd. If she trusts me and likes me, she's going to go ahead and do it anyhow. The one he sent a lot of y'all, I don't if he sent y'all Avery or Morgan, that if Doug sent y'all that one, I think that was her name. Same situation. She hit me with the daughter thing, but I'd already built up that trust and I got through it. So if you're having to build, if I get to the point where it's that 3rd loop they're coming around, I'm going to tell them, hey, what do you think is harder? Is it harder for your daughter to come up with $10,000? Or is it harder for you to afford that $50 a month? And at that point, I'm putting them on the spot, and either they're going to do it or we're getting off the phone and I'm moving on. So I just would say, Steve, to go back and check what you're doing before you get to that first loop, because maybe you're not quite building up enough trust before you get there, if that's happening often.
Good stuff, dude. That's awesome. Thanks. Peter, you're on.
Yeah. Hey guys, how y'all doing? Good presentation, Chris. My question was, towards the end, you mentioned something about texting them back with approval. So you don't give them the approval right away. Tell me how that works.
Yeah. Yes, I do. If it's a company that I know got them approved right then. But let's say you send it into Transamerica, Aetna, or even American Amicable, and maybe it went to underwriting. If it's an approval right then, I'm fixing to get happy with them and get excited and really pump it up right then. But if a lot of times you're not going to get an approval right then, and I want to make sure they know so they're not worried about it, that I did get them approved.
Okay.
I'll tell you something else I do too. So if it was someone that was borderline, and I think I might can get them approved with that, but as we know with some of these companies, even though it shows maybe you're using the quoter tool and it shows that, yeah, that'd be approved, but they don't always tell you everything, and something else could come up. It could be the company. So if it's someone, I've gotten to the point, if it's someone that's borderline, say borderline between getting approved with Transamerica versus a guaranteed issue. Well, I already get a backup plan in their mind. Say, hey, I believe in shooting for the best, and I think we can get you approved with Transamerica. But worst case scenario, this is what we're looking at. That way, if you do have to overcompensate for that sale and you have to go a different direction, you already have it in her mind. She's already comfortable with that. So I do that a lot, and that way to keep from having to call somebody out of the blue and say, hey, I couldn't get you approved with this. You got to go guaranteed issue with the 2-year waiting period. It's really hard to sell it if you haven't already prepped them for it.
Excellent.
I got it. All right. Thanks.
Cool. Very cool. Hey, anybody else? Nope. Maybe not. All right. Well, Chris, man, this is a lot of information, and it did record. So guys, this recording will be on the website within the next few hours. I should have it up there. So you guys, you could always log back in later and listen to some of the stuff that Chris did and Chris shared with us. Chris, man, thank you so much. This is gold. This is gold big time, and I really appreciate you.
Not a problem.
All right. Excellent. Guys, if you need anything, you know how to reach me. Do your thing. Get on the phone, smile and dial, have a kick butt week, and we'll talk later. Adios.